All right, this week on Prof and Dev Play Games, we have Prof and Prof talking games. It's Dragon Age: The Veilguard. Stay tuned. All right, my friends, welcome to episode 454 of Prof and Dev Play Games. The Dev is not here, so I have my Prof friend, Prof and Prof Plays Games this week. This is Bill. Bill, how you doing?
I am doing lovely. How are you?
Good. Welcome back to the podcast. It's been a little while. I'm glad to have you back.
Hey, not as long as the last break, so I'm feeling upgraded. So
Yeah,
I'm preening. I feel special. I have on my Varric costume. Everything is good.
Oh my gosh, that's great. You have a broken Bianca or a intact Bianca?
Oh, my heart.
Yeah. Sorry,
How dare they? How dare?
I know, man. I know.
Dumb.
At least that, it was it's not, I guess it's kind of a spoiler, but it was in the promotional material, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I didn't see it. So
okay.
I was avoiding spoilers and Rude.
Well, we are going to talk some spoilers today. So if you're going in unseen into Veilguard, just want to let you know now we're going to talk about some things. I've been playing since it came out, and I've got 6 hours in it. And as I was playing, I saw Bill was playing, and Bill's got a little more hours than I do. So I wanted to talk about everything Dragon Age Veilguard and probably other Dragon Age as well, because I think you've played like Origins and 2 and Inquisition.
All of them, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So is my husband. So
nice.
We are and he's playing independently Veilguard from
cool.
me, and then we're comparing notes as he's experiencing stuff too. So
that's cool. Well, do you want to start a little bit about your experience with the series? Mine was only Inquisition. I played Inquisition for about 40 or 50 hours, and most of that was the Hinterlands. So
okay, well, why don't you talk about your experience first, since I've had a different one, and then let me piggyback on where your thoughts are. So
I picked up Inquisition right after it came out, which I believe it came out 2014, and Anthony, the dev, had picked it up and was talking to me about it. 2014 is the year that I got back into video games. So I picked up Dragon Age of Veilguard without having, Inquisition, without having much experience with like third-person kind of action RPGs, having just gotten back into gaming and mostly through Nintendo. So I was almost overwhelmed with how much stuff there was, and also didn't know the language of the games. So I honestly spent about 35 hours in the Hinterlands. I just did everything, so I thought you were supposed to. And then I was talking to Anthony on the podcast one day, and he's like, are you still there? You can leave. I had no idea you could leave. I was finding like cool stuff, like references to Plants vs. Zombies, which is a game that was from a studio that Anthony worked at, PopCap at the time. There's so much different stuff buried there. I was just, I was almost in a candy shop. I was so excited about all the cool little things hidden around, but then I left and tried to move on through the story, and I got probably 50 hours in. There's like the war table where you're like kind of pushing through all the different parts of the land.
Yeah, that was an interesting innovation.
Yeah, but I got stuck there. I kept coming back over the years and just keep coming back to that spot and thinking, what am I supposed to do? How do I get on? So I went back to it this year in advance of Veilguard. So I went to Comic-Con and saw the voice actors at a panel, and was just really into like their love of this game and the story of this game that I wanted to get back into it. So I dived back into, I forget which area I went into, and was just clearing some side quests and kind of getting my feet wet again. And I just had lost the thread of the story. So it didn't capture me. And that's kind of my experience with Dragon Age, because I'd never played Origins or 2. And that was my experience with Inquisition. I loved the choices you could make with the characters. I never romanced any of the characters at that time. And then, the next year, Witcher 3 came out, and I really started to understand these kind of games. And then I played Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. But Inquisition is probably my gateway into these types of games, but it didn't, it felt maybe bloated is the right word. There was too much to do, and I'm happily experiencing the Veilguard differently. So that's my Inquisition and Dragon Age background, other than reading some of the comics. What about you?
So, like my husband, although we hadn't met at the time, we both played Origin when it came out. I played Origin and finished it before, and this was a theme with Mass Effect 2. Finished it before all the DLC got published. So I ended up not going back to the DLC until later because I'd already finished the game. Then I eventually did do that DLC. I played through Origins, and it had a really cool side story for one of the characters, Liliana, where you played as her before the game and did a prequel. And I went back and played that, and that was great. One thing that, since you've only played now these two games, it's hard to realize how much the combat has changed.
Yeah. I mean, it's hugely different between just Inquisition. So I can't imagine. I think the first one, Origin, was more CRPG, Baldur's Gate-ish, right?
Very much so. Yeah. And it's literally like they reinvent the combat every time.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be good or bad depending on your point of view. Obviously, the combat in Veilguard is far more action RPG.
Yeah.
Not normally my cup of tea. I'm okay with it, but I kind of suck at it too. And I still need to get more of these combos under my belt, which is clearly important to break the armor, break the shields,
Yeah, right.
But the characters, like with Mass Effect, are what bring you back. And clearly they have a lot of nods to the previous games. But one of the problems was, like with Mass Effect, the problem was if you create this choices matter thread that keeps on coming back game after game after game, then you have the problem with how do you reflect that in the new game?
Right, especially when there's maybe not a canon pathway or canon ending.
Exactly. And so they really, and in previous games you could import saves or, the Mass Effect thing. But it's clear that this, in some ways like Andromeda for Mass Effect, tried to find a pathway that minimized those decisions' impact on the game you're playing. So, but it's definitely a very powerful experience. It's a beautiful looking game.
It really is gorgeous. Absolutely.
So, what do you want to tackle first? Well, let me ask this. How are you feeling about the game overall right now compared to Inquisition and other games that you've played? And how is it making you feel right now?
So I'm directly comparing it to a couple of games. I'm comparing it to Inquisition, and I'm really liking it because the pacing is so much better for me, at least. Like I think I've popped like 3 or 4 trophies where it's like part 1, part 2, part 3, and I'm kind of moving through what I'm kind of calling chapters, and it's the story feels it's engaging to me, but it feels swift, and that's keeping me coming back, which is nice because I've mentioned on the podcast a lot. I only play games at night when everyone's asleep, so I start playing probably around 10 o'clock, and then around 10:45 I'm getting sleepy. So I basically play 10 to 11 or 9:30 to 11. So being able to get through a chapter a night has been pretty good. So I've liked that. In terms of the combat, it's really struck me with God of War, the new God of War, the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 versions of God of War, and then also Final Fantasy 16, where Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy forever has been different kinds of RPGs, mostly turn-based, but not always. But then they brought in the Devil May Cry combat director, and they turned it into just a full-bore action RPG with not very much RPG, but mostly action. And the combat was very much like this, where you are doing these combos and it's straight action combat.
Which one was that? Was that the The road trip one? I don't
No,
know.
that was 15. That was 15, and that was more actiony. That you were able to do. I forget what they called it. Action turn based or something, where you can pause it and then do moves, kind of like the Final Fantasy VII remake and rebirth right now, where you can just play straight up action, or you can enter the menus and do turn based kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this is Final Fantasy 16, where there was none of that. There was all you're able to cycle through your abilities that give you ice or lightning or whatever, and you build up ultimates over time, but you're just hacking and slashing and dodging, more like what you're seeing in Veilguard. And for me, I like all kinds of combat. Like I put 90 hours into Baldur's Gate 3 last year. I loved that combat. It was great. I know that, as you said, Dragon Age has kind of reinvented itself combat wise over time between Origin, the CRPG, and then 2, which I believe was quite different for a lot of reasons, that game. But I like it. I really like the combat. I think that, I forget which button you push, but when you push maybe it's right bumper and you have access to like your two, your amigos that are with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. Companions. Like, what the hell is the word? The companions are with you. I think that screen is kind of over designed, where there's like, each one has like three abilities, and they're just so far spaced out. But the way that they prime and detonate each other is kind of an interesting idea. But there's so much real estate and very few abilities on that screen. It's sort of interesting how that's designed. And I also feel it's interesting with the combat where it's you and your two companions, but you're the only one with a health bar. Your companions don't have one. So you're kind of, drawing aggro, or you're taking all the hits. I don't know. I think that I am, in the first 6 hours, enjoying this way, way more than I enjoyed Inquisition. And I'm trying to figure out if that's because when I picked up Inquisition, I was just back to video games like this, and I just didn't quite know what was happening. Whereas now I'm way more seasoned. But I'm having a ball with it so far. Excellent.
How do you compare? Because I know one of your favorite games, and one that I haven't played because, again, I play everything on PC. A lot of stuff has to do with character interaction, whether it's dating, romance, getting to know people. And I know that one of the games that you really enjoyed was Fire Emblem Three Houses. How would you compare the character development so far to that game?
It's funny. I didn't enjoy Three Houses that much.
Well, I know because of certain
yes, exactly.
Relationships.
Yeah. So I taking it out of the school setting where you're not a professor, there's not students. I love that. Like Witcher 3 had a ton of that. Mass Effect had a ton of that. Inquisition did too, but it was a very slow burn in Inquisition for me. And I ended up getting attached to, I cannot remember her name, but she sat Josephine.
Yes. Oh, she's a sweetie.
Yeah, she was awesome. So I was going down that road, and that was a very slow road. But I love when there's romance. I love when there's relationships in games, because it just makes me, I don't know, like get more engaged. I love love. I love falling in love. I love that whole feeling. Like my not dirty secret. This is not dirty secret, but Nicholas Sparks novels. I love reading Nicholas Sparks romance novels.
Oh, cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's something that I find really great when it's done well. And I find it annoying when it's not done well. And with Three Houses, for me, it was so superficial, and it was also, for me, fucking creepy, just because I can't disassociate what my actual job is from what's happening. So Persona 5, it just never landed for me for the same reason, where you're the student and you're potentially hitting off with your teacher or whatever. And it's just like, nah, this is not, I can't, I literally cannot do this. But this game doesn't have that dynamic. And I haven't had enough of the relationship building to see how I feel about it in this game, but I've certainly just absolutely loved it in other games. I'm still in love with Triss, and I'm still Team Triss to this day.
He'll always be, my number one for The Witcher. Even though I bought, I think I said in a previous one of our discussions, I bought both. This is way back when it was physical media. the American and European versions of the original Witcher, which had different translations because the European one was uncensored.
Oh, of the first Witcher, which I thought.
Yeah.
Didn't you like collect cards after having sex with different?
You got titty cards. And again, for those who don't know me, spoiler alert, not my main focus, as you might hear from the word husband. But nonetheless, I wanted to see what that vision looked like. And like Pokemon, I collected them all. Well, I guess Poke-Girl, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and obviously, The Witcher 1 was a very different game that tried to build on this very clearly misogynistic world that was, created in this fiction. So, obviously, I think the game, I don't want to say outgrew it, but grew beyond it.
Yeah, exactly. There was I have a alternate podcast, the RPG Backlog, and we started doing Witcher 2. And
I've heard of that.
Yeah, you may have heard of that. So my friend started playing, and I also started playing, and found the same thing. He was playing, and I think he's in an apartment where families around. He's just like, oh shit, okay, there's some sex in this game. And then I, obviously I play Witcher 3, so I know that's the case, but I wasn't thinking about it, and I was just streaming it on YouTube, and then it got sexy time, and I was like, oh boy, I can't stream this, so I had to go back and edit the video. So it's and I remember hearing. Yeah, there was not a lot of Fade to Black happening, and it was Triss and Geralt, which I was like, all right, here we go. I was right to be on Team Triss. So, but then I went and read the books, and I was like, oh no, I fucked this up. I was supposed to be on Yen's team.
Again, clearly, and I still have to see the TV series, but clearly, it's interesting to see how a universe can be reinterpreted. Even one that's relatively tight, so that's really cool.
It's true.
For me, I love the characters. Of course, I get paranoid about pissing anybody off. I hate that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I wish there's a couple things that, again, on the good side, I like the characters I've seen so far. I really like the voice acting for the British male Rook, which is what I'm using right now.
Yeah, me too. Are you which voice? There's like two. Are you using one or two?
Remember? Christ, I don't remember. I don't know. It was the one that sounded. I don't know. It just sounded good to me. I don't know what voice it was.
We might be using the same one. I'm using the same. I used the first one.
Yeah, I like, again, picking up from Inquisition, the kind of emotion icons in the conversations where it's like, oh, I'm going to answer sarcastically or strongly, and that's nice. I wish we could see the approval levels of the companions. I find that annoying.
But I have to believe it's being done in the background. Do you think so too?
Oh, sure. But I mean, that's the problem, is that if one of the weird things about all these games is you have a character that is sort of suggeniously in the world with no family and friends at age whatever.
Yeah.
And suddenly the only people you're going to interact with is this tight universe of people you're around. And I think it's better when, sure, some people are going to approve or disapprove, but it's also become a kind of a gotcha mechanic that, oh, you're going to be in a situation and you're going to have to piss off one person to make another person happy. And that gets almost tedious. You know, the same thing, like, it was striking in Mass Effect, the original one, when you had to do the Wehrmeyer mission, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that was like, oh my God, how can I, right?
Right.
And interestingly, I don't know if you knew this or not. Originally, there was supposed to be a way to save both companions.
Huh. Did they change that because they wanted to force a choice on you, or?
I don't know. I just know there was dialogue recorded where both were saved. That was then removed. But it obviously had a huge impact and it was powerful. But nowadays, it's getting more and more to where people, it's become a trope that for a game to be sophisticated, you're going to have to lose someone, or someone's going to have to betray you, or you're going to have to sacrifice somebody. There can be no happy endings. Somebody's got to get fucked. I'm beginning to get a little tired of that.
Yeah, sometimes I think about that in terms of, are they trying to make it replayable so that you come back through the whole game and choose a different choice? Or are they trying to make it impactful so that you feel like you've lost something by making the choice?
Well, I'm sure yes and yes, but I think there are better ways. Like, for example, go back to Mass Effect. You played through the entire series, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I played one, except for Andromeda. Sorry, I tried.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So think about the choice between Samara and Morinth, her daughter. I think that's a far better way to handle these things, to say, okay, the kind of playthrough you're going through might alter the kind of people you draw to yourself. And then at some point, you have to balance between this person is awful, this person is, whatever, and then you have to choose one path that talks about who you are and what your goals are.
Yeah.
But the idea of people who are your friends, and yes, in real life, sometimes they're going to stress out your friends. But the idea that you're going to have to piss people off then becomes a micromanagement of, okay, who am I going to take on this mission? I'm going to replay it until I'm sure I don't piss somebody off.
Yeah.
Because I didn't kick the puppy or something, or whatever.
Right.
And that's a little disappointing. Again, I know it's supposed to add sophistication, but it feels artificial, because a lot of people who, if you read like Soldiers' Diaries, the reason you get the whole Band of Brothers thing is because people are brought together by adversity and common enemies.
Right. And that fake friction isn't always there. We're together. We're trying not to piss each other off. We're trying to do something together and have this camaraderie moving forward together.
Yeah. And then there will be problems, but again, it creates, it's like, I love the game so far, having great fun, but also occasionally I'm reminded, oh, this is very gamey. Like, okay, the mission is to the right. Now I need to turn to the left and look at everything on this side before I go.
Yep.
And I need to find, and I have to break all the crates like I'm Link inside of a pottery barn.
Oh my God. I thought that so many times so far. I'm just breaking every fucking box and pot in my way. Like, this is a Legend of Zelda game.
Yeah. And I didn't get in the first couple rounds of the game about the green pot having the heal potion.
Oh, the health, yeah. Uh-huh.
And then I felt like a dumbass. There's a couple things. It's so weird. It's trying to build you on the combat. I still don't get all of it. I'm like, I can build up to where there's a bomb on somebody, and I still can't figure out how to activate it all the time, which is annoying. But on the other hand, I have there are other mechanisms it doesn't explain. Like, it's interesting, it doesn't even let you get into your inventory at the beginning of the game. And you have to get past a certain point to be able to even access items. Have you noticed that, or
I guess I didn't, because I didn't access items until I was picking them up on the ground, and then I opened up and I was able to change my equipment, and then I could see the resources where I have like the valuable items I
you
picked up.
could later, but actually in the very first of the game you couldn't, even if you could pick
Interesting.
it up.
Okay, I never tried at that point.
Yeah, well, even in the very first mission, you could find some gold and other things in little hidey holes as you're going through to Venture. And I did. And I was like, well, how much gold have I picked up? I don't know. And it wouldn't let me. And it wasn't until later it opened it up, which is kind of interesting, but a little weird. I love the fact that there are little puzzles that are just around the place. Again, a very platformy kind of thing. Like when you're in the lighthouse, you can unlock a room the first time you're in the lighthouse if you solve a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do that, or
with the statues, that puzzle?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So as I was going into where I thought the library was, I turned the two statues towards each other. And then my character said, oh, I think there are two more statues. And I went to the left and found the third statue. And then I went to symmetrically where the fourth one would be, and it wasn't there. And I spent like 5 minutes looking around where the fuck is the fourth statue. Couldn't find it. So I did not finish that puzzle.
Actually, when they said there are two more, the plaque on one of the statues says the three must be facing each other. It means there's two more sets of statues.
Oh, okay.
And the easiest way to see it is to stand at the statue and look across the way, because the statue may not originally be pointing in the direction of the other one.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've got one pair, you should have an idea kind of how they pair up.
And then, so the other pairs may be further away in the labs. Yeah. Okay, okay. Because I was just looking in that area. I was like, okay, it must be somewhere else. And then I moved on.
But if you stand at a statue, you can look around and you will be able to visually see it.
Okay.
And then you can kind of platform to it. Just like that in the lighthouse, there's if you're coming from the main building and you hook left, there's a lower area that has some goodies below, that you can pick up. But again, I just like the fact it has those little, but it's not a great platformer, obviously.
No.
I love the parkour jumping, but I'll tell you, all the characters, and this is true in all the Dragon Ages, move like they have lead feet.
They really do. I've missed a few jumps. Luckily, they grabbed the edge, so I haven't completely died. But God,
I've taken a few baths by trying to jump to a boat.
Exactly,
not quite making it.
Exactly.
But yeah, and that was always a problem. Is when they try and make platforming a sub puzzle, and the game's not well designed for that. So that's a but generally I'm having great fun. Love the lore. It was clear that this is a game that's been redone a couple of times, because at the end of Inquisition, find Solus and stop him was the big plot point, right? And instead of that being the whole of this game, the fact is that your goal, the Solus is ended in his goal almost immediately, and now you have an entirely new set of villains, right?
Yeah, it's like the end of the prologue, which is, when they moved from Dragon Age Dreadwolf and they said, we're changing the name to the Veilguard, and you'll see why. I can kind of see why. They were like, we're stuck in this thing where we had to go find Solus, and he was the big bad. No, not really. There's other enemies, other elven gods, I should say.
Yeah. So I definitely think that so far the direction is good. You can romance, by the way, multiple people without negative consequence, though you can't really have polyamory, but nobody's going to get pissed at you like in the earlier games, which, boy, they did.
Yeah.
And one of the problems is I do like the fact that you can You don't just accidentally romance somebody. Because that happened in a couple of games before where in the first game, I was romancing Morrigan, voiced by Claudia Black, because she was the first major companion I ran into. And then I didn't realize, because I was trying to be friendly and get the backstory, I ended up accidentally also romancing Liliana, who she's great. But then the two of the girls came at me at one point, like, who the fuck are you doing? What are you? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yikes. You know, I was not trying to do anything. And of course, if I'd known and met a character named Zevron, who's the amazing gay elf, but he came much later in the game, but I will romance the fuck out of him because he's a smoothie. So.
Well, I didn't realize that Claudia Black was the voice of Morrigan.
Oh, yeah.
She's the voice of Chloe in Uncharted. I love her voice. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Of course, I know her originally from Farscape.
Farscape? What? I guess I don't know what that is. Farscape. Was it?
It was a TV show.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why.
Pretty long-running, very unusual sci-fi show that included a Jim Henson Muppet.
Oh, cool.
As one of the aliens. It was definitely a ragtag ship of people who can't trust each other, but with really weird aliens. And it was pretty good. Thought of fondly by some people, certainly. That ran like 7 seasons, so not a short series.
Yeah, must have been successful then. Morrigan, when she popped up in Veilguard, I was like, I remember her from Inquisition.
Yes.
But I'm noticing now that Morrigan goes all the way back to the beginning, back to Origins.
Oh, yeah, she's really important. Yeah. She plays a crucial role in the first game, and she and her mother are deeply complicated throughout the games. Because her mother, in the first game, you find out, is actually a dragon, who's kind of a Baba Yaga-like figure. And she kind of pops in and out of the games for all 3 games. And again, spoiler alert, but to a game that's very old now, in the DLC of the Inquisition, Dreadwolf meets up with her. Now, it ends up that Flemeth, who by the mother character, the dragon, actually also has the incarnation of one of the gods in her. And she's voiced, by the way, of from Voyager, Captain Janeway. What's her name? Kate Mulgrew.
Yeah.
And Fenris eats her, basically kills her, and takes her essence. And that's a very shocking moment in the series because of her longevity in it. So, again, we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, I think that at the moment people hopefully will enjoy it. Hopefully there are a couple mechanics that I think are hidden, like the weapon upgrade system is weird.
It is so interesting where you have just like basic ass weapon and you pick up a copy of it and it upgrades the rarity.
Yeah, and then you can also upgrade it at the workbench to a plus whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a little weird. Interesting. I still don't know that I know all the synergies. I love the fact that you can refund skills and rebuild. That's awesome because I'm sure I'm fucking it up right now.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think I am. I'm not saying absolutely for you.
No, I'm saying absolutely for me, but we'll agree. But I think that it has a lot of really cool touches. I know people I don't think it will affect your listenership, but some people are upset because it's, quote unquote woke because gay people or bi people or whatever, and they can, what's the phrase? Go fuck themselves.
Yeah. I
But,
think that. Let me check my notes. Yeah, that's the phrase. Yeah.
so,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm glad. And it looks like that after some concerns, it's getting good reviews, except for the anti-woke review bombing by people.
Yep.
But I think IGN gave it 9 out of 10.
Yep.
So that's nice.
Yeah, it seems to be well received. It had the biggest launch for a single player game for EA ever on Steam. It was like 70,000 concurrence on Halloween, and that's fucking Halloween. I don't know what it's done over. I should look actually. I'm gonna look up Steam DB. I wonder what it did over the weekend when people were actually around. Let's see here. Is Veilguard up here? I'm gonna look it up. But it seems to have been well received. That certainly had good reviews, but it feels like it sold pretty well. Where are the concurrents? Where is the chart?
Well, what's so interesting is that people really ragged on Inquisition and said, "Oh, it's awful." And it ends up being like their best-selling game ever. So
yeah, and game of the year that year in quite a few places. So right now there are 46,900 players. The 24-hour peak is 89,000, and the all-time peak was 89,000, which was 8 hours ago.
Wow.
So not bad at all.
No. And for a game that also amazingly in the first weekend hasn't had to patch itself.
Right.
Which true. I don't mean to sound shady, but I'm so used to that nowadays that and I mean, wow, that's kind of cool. So,
yeah, that is cool.
Any other thoughts on the game for you, or
just that it's beautiful? I'm playing on I got a new curved 2K monitor, and it's really nice to play on that just ultra widescreen. Treated myself, but I also got it. I also downloaded it to the Steam Deck to see how it plays on there, and it certainly is playable. You got to fuck with the settings quite a bit to get it just right, but even then, it's like 19 FPS to 28 is kind of where I'm at.
It's Witcher 3 playable.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, you know what? I can play it on I'm just going to play it in the garage, in the booth, on the big screen. So it's nice to have it portable, but yeah. I'm glad they put in the effort to make it Steam Deck playable, to not have DRM, to not have the fucking EA launcher. It just looks good.
The only other mild criticism I'd have, and it's very mild, is that while it certainly jumps into the game quickly, there's a little bit of me that wishes it hadn't gone so hyper fantastic in the very first act, because usually getting to the fade and the high magic is something that's a little less common in this world. Now, Tevinter's obviously different, but I mean, in the first act, you have basically fucking Death Star,
right? Yeah,
and it feels also a little cyberpunky with, the light on the girl and boom, 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 So, and then you're immediately in the fade, and but if you remember with Inquisition, you have this kind of high magic moment, then everything gets very realistic, and low key, and then you build. Now, again, this is the fourth in the series, but I did kind of wish they had pace-wise saved maybe some of that for later.
I mentioned how it goes up from here because, like I said, 6 hours in, and you're more than that. So, yeah, you would have more of a perspective on that. But for me, it's starting almost white hot from the beginning.
Oh, yeah, very. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, has been engaging for me. But, yeah, can it maintain that? Does it have low, quiet moments, character moments?
Oh, yeah, and it's fun. And because that some of the characters like Varric, like Harding, are people whom you've known previously
Yeah, right.
in the previous game. I've just recently unlocked what is clearly Harding's arc for her story, and that was, I always thought she was really a cute character, and they've given her an interesting role to play in this game. And I like the visuals on, is it Nev is her name? I'm still getting to know her.
The one with the very deep V for her casual wear?
I was just thinking of the cool looking outfit with the sort of cyberpunky foot and the
Yeah, exactly. That's Nev. Yeah.
and the academic cap with a half veil, and I'm a sucker for a half veil. Her design is really cool.
Her design is really striking. Yeah, the mortarboard for sure, the veil, and that. But then we get back to Lighthouse and she's in her casual wear. I'm just like, holy fuck! All right, like none of those buttons work apparently. All right, this is what we're doing.
Well, she's got to air out the mechanics. So
look, I was like, all right, I guess Nev, that's who I'm romancing. Let's go, let's go, Nev, let's do it. I'm easy to please. So yeah, it was very cool character designs. I know the character designs were shit on when the first the announcement or whatever came out, but I like how they look. I like how it looks. And this is the first time where I've made a character that I tried to make look like me as much as possible.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
I usually play female characters. If I have a choice, I'll play a female character every time. But this time I wanted to try something different. So I made a male character who looks like, I tried to make it look like me at least. And it's actually more immersive. I'm like, oh, it's me. I kind of get lost in it a little bit. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I have a problem with, I prefer the ones that have a little bit more just presets rather than the completely putty, like
oh yeah, sure.
I am not smart enough to use that, and if I fool with it too much, my character ends up coming out looking like Gollum. Oh man, I do wish they had some more medium length hairs. That could be a little bit more androgynous. I was looking for kind of a K-pop feel kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And didn't really find it. But I was happy to see like lots of clearly African inspired hairs, which are often lacking.
There's a podcast that I love, kind of funny, where they did it was a black hair. What's the deal with black hair in video games by one of the content creators there. And they were talking about how, this game has made a huge stride forward in the amount of black hairstyles there are.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It was very cool. All right. Any other thoughts?
No, I think that's good on this one.
Good.
What else have you been playing? What else do you want to talk about?
Holy shit. Okay. Well, I have a bunch of games. I'm curious if you've played any of these. As you know, every time I'm on, I play these weird ass games that are not usually in you or Anthony's warehouse or wheelhouse, pardon me. Maybe their warehouse as well.
Or warehouse, yeah, who knows?
Yeah. But let's see. I made my little list here. So one I know you're not playing, but this is I think I told you I have to have one gotcha game in my life that I hate myself over.
Mm-hmm.
Originally it was like Injustice 2. These are always mobile games. There was the gardening one that was a Match 3, very famous one. I can't remember the name of it. And then there was King's Quest, I think, or something, which is similar. But now I am in a romance sim, which is also sci-fi and also super big money maker called Love and Deep Space.
Love in Deep Space?
No, and.
Oh, and. Okay.
Have you heard of this thing?
I haven't, no.
I want you to just Google that phrase, Love in Deep Space.
I'm going, okay. You want me to Google it? Oh boy, here we go. I was going to look it up on Steam, but let me go Google this.
It's not on Steam. It's a mobile game.
Oh, it's a mobile game. Okay, that would do no good then. Okay, Love and Deep Space. Whoops, I spelled Deep Depp, which is probably going to get me to a Johnny Depp website. There we go. Love and, is it one word, Deep Space?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Love and Deep Space. I've seen anime.
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay, let's loading. I'll accept the cookies. All right, I've got someone with dark hair over their eyes and got some piano playing.
Yep. If you look at the images, look at the quality of this thing. It's crazy. They have spent a ton of money on this thing. The theme is sung by the English version by Sarah Brightman, who's a Broadway theatrical person. It's a romance gotcha game, but on mobile, and the character models, as you can see, are like insane.
Yeah.
The storylines are fucking insane. Because they start off with a weird sci-fi component. Like you're in a future Earth that found a kind of warp tunnel to deep space. But at that time, then things broke in called Wanderers, which are basically bad guys like from the Fade kind of thing. And some humans developed special powers they call evols, like evolution. And they fight them. So the game is half romance sim, and the other half is actual battler. But to do that, you have to Genshin Impact like gather memories and upgrades with 3,000 different currencies, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the storylines, once you learn them, because as you get cards, those memories are like your Pokemon cards that you put in and slot in to fight with. So the upgrade memories become your measure of offense and defense. And you have 6 slots, so you have to mix 6 memories.
And are you playing this on like an iPad or on your phone?
iPad.
iPad. Okay.
And again, it's very deep. The storylines get to levels of Kingdom Hearts crazy.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a selling point, I think.
I kid you not. Do you want me to pitch you on just one story?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So Xavier, the blonde-haired K-pop kid.
Mm-hmm. It does look very K-pop.
Yeah, you meet him. This is a game from China, so there it is.
Okay.
But you meet him. He ends up, he's like you with a sort of hunter's background, but he's not registered anywhere. He also seems to sleep a lot, but is very competent. A little mysterious in his background. Over time, if you will learn, he's actually from the planet that's on the other end of the warp tunnel called Philos, which is actually Earth in the future after it's gone through a near apocalypse. And he is the prince of Philos in the future. And the queen, whom he's in love with, is a reincarnation of you.
What? What?
And the Philos is dying unless he goes back into the past with his squad and then finds you. And then the thing that powers your evil, your power, is a thing called a protocore. And yours are special. And only if he can take it from you, which will probably kill you, and bring it back to the future will the future be saved. but he's fallen in love with you. And that's the simple to explain part.
That's wild, man. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
All four of the current love interests have that level of crazy involved.
Wow. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So, but it is a money-sucking game, entirely based on gotcha and all that. So that's the sad part. But all the memories, people upload them to YouTube. So if you ever want to see some of the story, it's out there.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I have not played it, but I get the idea. You know, thinking about Genshin or thinking about Zenless Zone Zero or the sci-fi one. These things
very visual novel at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
What else have you been playing?
I mean, I've been playing Zelda Echoes of Wisdom with my daughter.
How awesome.
Yeah, we are slowly getting through it. Barbara continues to tell me how she is so much further than I am, and she's confused because we were so excited for this game to come out. But my daughter has been bouncing around between games and other interests too. We started Zelda, but then she wanted to go back and play Stray again. So we played it for the third time. Mm-hmm. She just loves that game, man. She really, really loves that game, which is very, very cool. But I've been playing that with her. And then I just spent time with Final Fantasy 16. My goal this year was to go through and play more of my backlog and get through a bunch of games that I've started in the past but haven't finished. So I've finished, I think, like 8 or 9 this year, and the latest one was Final Fantasy 16. And then bounced over to Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, trying to get through more of that before the end of the year game discussions. But between, you know, my full-time job and then being co-chair and then also teaching a Fast Track 2 course, there's not a ton of time to play during the day, so I'm just playing my little sliver of time at night. So now it's Veilguard. I'm committed to getting through Veilguard because I'm really liking it. But that's been really about it for me.
Well, as always, I bounce between a lot. I'm doing. I've actually been more seriously playing ESO during the Halloween event because I always have sort of little cool grindy things there. Sure. And they added in some new companions, which are really cool, including one that, of course, got the anti-woke knickers in a twist because it's an elf that is non-binary.
Oh, boy. Jesus.
And apparently the existence of the word they has caused them to shit themselves.
What? Have you seen that fucking Trump ad? She's for they, them, and he's for you or some stupid shit like that?
No, but it doesn't shock me.
Just fucking gross. The Witches Festival, October 24th through November 6th. This looks pretty cool.
Yep. And again, they always have cool tchotchkes. They have a new battle this year, a boss battle. They always had this Daedra Hollowjack they added into the lore. And then you had armor like him and other stuff. But now you get to fight him in a battle that is really cool. And because everybody wants to do it, it's very easy to get a group together. But it has some really creepy mechanics because you'll get him down, and you know how boss battles work, right? They have their phases. But at one phase, multiple phases, you have to suddenly crouch and hide because he becomes unkillable. And he puts up a lantern and starts hunting for you. And you have to try and avoid him as he's hunting for you. And if you're seen, insta-kill. And then little crows fly down, and all the crows deplete your stamina, which you have to hide. And so you have to come and quietly shoo the crows away until he quits looking for people to avoid a party wipe. And when that happens, it does feel creepy. It's awesome. The feeling of being hunted. You've, of course, seen me play my Hexarchy game.
Oh, yeah.
Which I still love. It's my calm my brain. I also listen to podcasts and other things while I'm playing it because it's my kind of go-to, kind of almost board game kind of thing. Dreamlight Valley, which of course I love. They had a very small Halloween event, which is a rerun of last year, so nothing big in that. But they're adding a lot of new content. And every once in a while, I get back in my groove on it. Warhammer 40K Rogue Trader. That's a big Baldur's Gate-like game in the Warhammer universe.
Yeah, Anthony's been playing a lot of that lately.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I got really far in it. And then I had my summer kidney stone break.
Yeah.
And then they upgraded and all my mods broke. And my save games don't work anymore.
Oh, no. So if you want to get back in, you got to restart everything.
Yeah,
Ugh,
yeah.
ugh.
Baldur's Gate had the same problem.
Yeah.
There's some other games that are really small, weird ones. Defend the Rook.
Defend the Rook.
That's on Steam.
That's not Dragon Age Veilguard?
No.
Defend the Rook. You still there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was going to see if you'd seen it or not.
Yeah, I am looking it up right now. Oh. Roguelike tactics board combat combined with tower defense.
Yeah, it's weird, but kind of cool. It plays with a bit of the chess metaphor, but also with upgrades. And I haven't gotten too far in it, but again, it's one of those small games that I bought, and I found it kind of intriguing.
Yeah, I love the art style here and the concept. It looks very chess-like.
Oh yeah, totally. It feels like a fun combination of mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that I can recommend is a board game called Dawn Maker.
Dawn Maker. Let's check this out. Turn-based city building and deck building game. Cool.
Yeah, it's a very, now it's the one negative is it's a bit ball busting in the difficulty. But it has some real interesting mechanics where you're in a polluted world and you're trying to spread light and clean things up. But to build over time, that fog will come back in and kill you. And so you have to figure out when strategically to upgrade things to push back the fog and reset things. Because the number of resources you need each turn to harvest increases. But you can't get those unless you take turns building things to make resources. So it's a really interesting complicated game, but very board game-esque, but could not easily be done on a tabletop because of the fog mechanic.
Right. Well, I'm just installed the demo. I see that has a demo, so I'm gonna check that out. That looks pretty interesting, and it just came out in July.
Yeah. Also, I played pretty deeply into a JRPG called Chrono Arc.
Chrono Arc, single player roguelike, deck builder, and party based RPG. Cool. Oh yeah, you played quite a bit of that.
Yeah. This is a roguelike deck builder JRPG with your time loop mechanic. So in a very dystopian kind of world where you're supposedly Earth was being doomed So everybody ends up in kind of like a floating city to help themselves out. But in getting there as the last vestige of humanity, you end up getting trapped. And you are somehow the fated girl who's supposed to be able to beat the big bad and break everybody out of this apocalypse. The thing is, you begin to barely realize that you keep on doing this and you keep forgetting that you've done it before.
Oh, man. Interesting.
And some of your companions may have false narratives.
Like do they know that you're coming back? Do they?
They're not supposed to.
But maybe they do.
Most of them don't. But maybe one or more does.
Interesting.
And as you go through the loops, you unlock more of the backstory, even to the point that at one point it changes the opening of the game because the story now is different from what you thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a longer game, has a lot of mods. I haven't played with any of the mods. I've beaten the loop a couple of times with different party members. And eventually to get the true ending, you have to kind of level and beat the ending with everybody. And that's just a little more than I'm ready to do right now, but it's a really cool mechanic, and every group plays differently.
Well, that's cool. That's a cool idea for the roguelite where you're, obviously coming back to doing things again, where it's wiping your memory or whatever.
Yeah, and it's trying to do the Hades thing where the story advances, and that also unlocks a little bit more about the other characters as you do that.
That is cool.
So, I played another one briefly, which I do want to get back to, a very cool indie called Children of the Sun.
I think I have that one on my wish list. That sounds familiar to me, at least.
It's really cool.
Oh, I do have it on my wish list. That art style. That's the one where the bullet, you're taking a shot and you have to figure out the puzzle of getting the bullet through to your target, right? Yeah, this looks fucking rad.
It's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly when you realize, to really do this, you also have to interpret what the extra win conditions are.
Sure.
But holy shit, it's really intriguing. And then one that may not be on your list.
Yeah, because the Children of the Sun was on, when it came out in April, was on a ton of the podcasts I listened to. They were talking about that game.
Yeah.
Really like.
This one, I doubt. But holy shit, is it a game you'll like?
Sovereign
Syndicate.
It sounds like it's a tactics game just from the title. I wonder if it is. Let's see.
Not quite.
Ooh, steampunk RPG with tarot cards instead of dice. Ooh, this looks like fucking Disco.
It plays like Disco Elysium in some way.
Oh, fuck.
Yes. And you play... Really, you are a minotaur in a Victorian setting.
Oh my god, this checks so many of my boxes.
Yes, it's a great game. And it there's just a lot to it. Not perfect, but definitely the upgrade system is represented by tarot cards. But it's all about personalities, and it's multiple different point of view characters. So you play one character for a while, and then you'll switch to another story. And that character you might build very differently as to what their personality type is and how they interact and what their specialty is. This is so up your alley.
Oh my God, this looks so much like something I want to play. I've wishlisted that. I'm looking through all the screenshots here. It's well reviewed.
Oh, it's such a good game. I really love it. Another one, unfortunately, this didn't quite hit the mark as much as I hoped, is one called Capes, which is a superhero tactical game that did not live up to being another Midnight Suns, unfortunately. I really had hoped this would be a new, upgraded Freedom Force. It's good, but not that good. And it got knocked a lot because it dared to have non-white men characters.
Ugh.
And a gay character. Oh my God!
What a timeline we live in.
Yeah,
where people are pissed at that kind of stuff.
It's one I'd take on sale, but I played a lot of it, and again, there's some balance bits. It does have a problem with difficulty spikes, but I think that if you dial down the difficulty a little bit from the medium, it plays very well. And again, tactical, cool, complicated, but fun.
Yeah. It looks a lot like Midnight Suns from the gameplay I'm looking at.
Yeah. It has that Midnight Suns feel, but its art style is much more cartoony. Unfortunately, the voice acting is just okay, and the animations in the stills are not great. So it's got some ways to go. One that I'll just mention briefly was Blade Prince Academy, which was a interesting sort of ARPG with JRPG feel to it. I thought I was going to like it a lot more. I found it just okay.
Yeah, there's something about this art style that I don't love. Just looking at the screenshots here.
Yeah, and the mechanics was, again, just okay. It has a lot of things I should love about it, but it didn't hit the mark the entire time. Another one that was also a little less good was is it Dice? Yeah, Dice Folk. Yeah.
Wield magical dice and build a team of powerful chimeras to stop a mysterious evil in this tactical roguelite adventure. Looks a little Slay the Spire-y.
Yeah, it's
no cards that I see, but
it's more the one that uses dice combat rather than cards.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, it's a lower budget game. It's fine. I know other people really love it. I just liked it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got quite a few reviews that are positive.
Yeah, it does have a map that you move on. But, you know, you can get... this is one that you can find on sale or in bundles. And if you get it there, it's not a bad time.
Yeah.
I just found it okay. But you know, that's what you do when you play all these. Another one was called Myth Force. One word.
Oh, that's the yeah. That is done by the team who did, and go ahead and vamp while I try to remember this.
Yeah, no. So the game reminds me a lot of crap. What is that name where you play the?
Beamdog. That's it. Yep.
Where you play the panda with the gun, gun something. Gunfire Reborn is what it reminds me of, which is a decent single player but often multiplayer game. MythForce has that feel. It's a run and gun roguelite with but a 3D FPS with upgrades. It's fun ish. But
it looks like a Saturday morning cartoon, which is very cool.
Yeah, I want to love it more. It plays a lot better if you have somebody else with you. I only played with random people. We didn't really communicate very well, but it was fine. It was a fine little game. I just wanted it to be more.
Yeah.
Back in the world of board games, Dune Imperium. Holy shit, what a good version of the board game. Amazing.
And wasn't that this year that came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about this as well on a lot of the podcasts. People were talking about that.
The original board game is highly, highly thought of. And this really implements the board game very well. I had basically got to learn how to play the board game, though I don't own the board game. Dune's not even my favorite property, but the board game is definitely kind of a worker placement kind of game.
Yeah.
But well implemented.
And you can play multiplayer online against other people?
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's so freaking cool. Oh, it's fucking by Direwolf.
It's a great,
Interesting. Okay.
And that's one where they had a humble bundle of board games, and they had it in there, and so
okay.
It was a great deal.
Yeah.
But even at full price, it would be worth it. It's well implemented.
Yeah, it's on sale.
And I think
it's on sale on Steam right now, 20% off.
Yeah, and also I think it's probably on like iOS and Android.
Yeah, probably.
Too. One of the games I had wanted to play early on, it didn't hook me, but I liked the idea of it, was called, it's like Ink Illuminati. Ink, I can't pronounce it. Ink Illuminati.
Oh, yeah. Ink Illuminati?
But it's a very, very clever game. Beautiful looking.
Ooh, this looks like fucking oh my god. It was done by the Microsoft Studio. And it's like a 13th century folio.
Yes.
God damn it. My mind is Swiss cheese today.
Yeah. But it is this is one where you're playing a medieval monk against another one, and you're drawing in illuminated characters that have specific abilities, and then they fight each other. It's all in medieval manuscript style.
Exactly.
The ability to draw is based on ink, which you get. It's really, and even includes the ability for you with enough upgrades to like smudge or wipe out your opponents on occasion as like an ultimate.
As just erase them off the page?
Yeah.
That's too cool. Pentiment, motherfucker. It's Pentiment. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's at the same side. I played that for like 6 or 7 hours and didn't finish it. I want to get back to it, but it looks so much like this style.
That's one I didn't play, but was one that was that I did buy. And but Pentiment's a very different kind of game.
Yes,
obviously.
absolutely. Yeah, it just reminded me of the art style.
And this is one I didn't get too far into because I had other things going on, but it's one I'll come back to. And again, just a colorfully unique style.
Is this a multiplayer game? Is this a single player game?
Single.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know if it has a multiplayer mode. I don't think so.
This is cool. I like having you on to tell me of all the games that I need to add to my wish list.
I know that these are always I come in with the weird ones.
No, those are great.
Songs of Conquest. This was again one that I wanted to love so bad. Oh my God, it hurts my heart it wasn't better. It's not a bad game. Let me start there. But it wants to be the new Heroes of Might and Magic 3. It is not. The balance just isn't there. It's okay. But it just made me want to go back and play Heroes of Might and Magic.
Right.
Or the the Armored Princess. I think I've recommended that to you before. The King's Bounty series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At least the King's Bounty before the new 3D version, which was okay, but not great. But the Russian studio that does the King's Bounty, those are awesome games. You can find all of them for like $2 on sale. Mm-hmm. Lots of good stuff there. I'm almost done. Anything else you'd like to add while I'm blasting all this crazy stuff?
No, I'm putting each one in the Steam and adding some of them to my wish list.
Yes, not all, but they can't all be perfect.
No,
right?
But you knew exactly which one was going to rise to the top. Sovereign Syndicate, yeah. Man.
I was not even going to try.
Sovereign.
So I'm just going to put in the beginning of this because the North Tree Roots of Yggdrasil.
Yep,
Yggdrasil is a really weird game. It's interesting. I was okay with it. I think I could go back and do more. It's clearly a good design. It's a deck building, city builder, where you're on a skyship, but rebuilding on islands that are based on the Tree of Life from Norse mythology. Yeah. It's and you are a crew of Norsemen in the future. It's a little complicated, but it's really polished, well designed.
Yeah, the art style looks cool. Another deck builder. I'm seeing a theme here.
Well, it's one of my favorite mechanisms.
Yeah, for sure.
I went through and did a whole bunch of playing the deck builders and seeing which one spoke to me, and as you might guess, not all of them did.
What's funny is this one, the Roots of Yggdrasil, is saying it's similar to games I've played, Dwarf Romantic. I wonder
I wouldn't say it's no. Dwarf Romantic is a that chill, almost like toy.
I love it. Yeah, it's very toyetic. It's probably one of my favorite chill games.
This is not chill.
Yeah. Okay.
Not at the beginning, not at the end.
That should be a category on Steam. Not chill.
Yeah. I have I've actually created a subcategory called chill games for myself. Yeah. And then one last one on my play not too long ago, but can't recommend it. So ending on a sad note was Sands of Salazar.
Okay. Sometimes the not recommended games are fun to look at least.
Yeah, it was a hit and a miss. Mm-hmm. It's more indie. It's got things I like. It's a It says it's an open world kind of war, kind of. It's a party builder RPG-ish, but I like the idea of it being in a very different kind of setting, but it just didn't grab me in the long run.
Yeah, there's quite a few negative reviews.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
But not something that made my heart pump.
Well,
and then my final thought. Oh, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
This was the thing I wanted to mention.
Oh, Vampire?
Yes, Vampire Bloodlines 2. The game that has been through, I think, 3 studios.
Yeah.
A new trailer is out. Called A Betting Man.
Because the Chinese room has picked up, or is the developer now on this?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which I thought had done like Walking Sim, whose name I can't remember right now. I thought was one of their last games, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Oh no, I am right about that. Everyone's gone to the Rapture. Everybody's gone to the Rapture.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Dear Esther as well. Interesting. Okay, so the trailer was good.
It's fine.
Oh no!
Oh, sorry, did not mean to blast you.
No, you didn't. But I know people. This has gone through hell. This one, but people loved the original Vampire RPG.
Oh yeah. Again, my husband and I, huge followers of it, have played through multiple times.
Yep.
The original is insanely good. Such a game ahead of its time.
Yep.
Did you ever play the original Bloodlines?
Anthony played. It was when I was in high school, I believe. Late 90s is when it was out. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Anthony played it when we were doing LAN parties, and I was playing fucking Diablo or whatever. Him and Travis were both playing Bloodlines, and I was just watching. No, him and Greg were playing. And I just watched them play. I never played it myself.
Yeah.
But they were obsessed.
Yeah. Well, do you know the World of Darkness role-playing game? Okay. So that's what this is based off of. That assumes that vampires come in clans, and these clans are all descended from Cain of Cain and Abel, and vampirism is that curse. And the clans all have different powers depending on what flavor they are. So one clan is like the Nosferatu, which look like the old movie Nosferatu. Deformed, hideous vampires. And if you play as them, you have to be an entirely stealth game where you run through the underground city and the sewers. Because if people see you, it causes a panic and it ends the game. On the other hand, there are the charming artistic vampires that seduce people and everything in between. And depending on what clan you played, your game was entirely different. It had that kind of great design like a Deus Ex, where there's more than one solution to the puzzle.
Right.
So good. And so we've been waiting a long time, but supposedly the game will come out next year. So we'll see.
I mean, God, if it's a direct sequel to the one from the late 90s, this is a long wait for y'all.
Well, it's a
there's been
spiritual successor, they'll say.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Now the trailer is okay. It's trying to hit you with a couple of characters, mostly kind of again introduce the weird world. Very little gameplay footage, more conversation footage. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
But The whole trailer's like a minute and a half.
Yeah, I just watched it while you were talking.
Oh, okay.
It looks interesting.
Oh, yeah. Well, that is my last big thought.
Well, I appreciate that huge list, and I appreciate you joining me tonight to talk about Dragon Age: The Veilguard.
Always a joy. Thank you so much.
Love having you on, and I would love to have you on more as we move through the Veilguard. It'd be kind of cool to keep checking in as we move through this game. Although you'll move at a faster
Whenever
clip.
you want.
You'll move at a faster clip than I will.
Maybe, but life does get in the way sometimes.
Yes, definitely does.
And finals.
Yep.
And traveling to family and all those things.
Yep. Well, awesome. Well, folks, thanks for listening. If you like us, please rate us on your podcast service of choice. Next week, we will be back with Anthony in the aftermath of the election. So if you're in America, please get out there and vote. Make your voice heard. Hopefully, we will be in a good place afterwards. But we shall see.
We shall see indeed. And if not, there are post-apocalypse games to train.
Moving into Steam for training. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week.
Bye.